Hello, everybody. Welcome to Branding Bud Live, the live stream that's 100% THC, 0% WTF. Every week we bring business people together to talk about the business of cannabis. I'm David Paleschuck, the CEO and founder of Branding Bud Consulting Group and the author of Branding Bud, the Commercialization of Cannabis, the first book on cannabis branding. And I'm here with my co-host, Adriana Hemans, a marketing expert and cannabis expert with over 8 years in the industry. My best friend, BFF, welcome to our last show of 2022. Hi, Adriana.
Hi, David. I'm super excited to be here, as always, with my best buddy. What did we say? We're like the Bert and Ernie of the cannabis industry. I think that's definitely true. And, David, do you know why else today is a special day? Not only because it's the last show of 2022, it's also the first day of legal cannabis sales in New York State.
Yes, it is. We have lots of friends waiting on Broadway right now, wrapped around the corner of 8th Street, I'm told.
Very cool.
Pretty exciting.
So I just want to say, I know that there's probably not a ton of people tuning in live, but this will be available on YouTube later. This is definitely like a vacation week. But that being said, this is all about productive distractions for the industry. It's all about making community and having an inclusive environment. So please feel free to chime in the chat. Just say hi. Let us know where you're from. Tell us what Santa brought you this year, and let's have a conversation and make it interactive.
Absolutely. And as we go through it, as we've promised, one of the things we want to hear is everybody else's year in review and predictions as we go through it too. So we'll give everybody an opportunity to chime in as well as we run through. But we've got an awful lot to cover in 45 minutes. So should we jump in?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run through our top 10 moments of 2022, starting with number 10. So this one I definitely wanted to talk about on Branding Bud Live because it really will have a big impact and a ripple effect on things we'll see in 2023. If you're not familiar with this, it is a class action lawsuit that was actually brought by consumers against a couple different brands in California, one of them being Jeter, which is a pre-roll company. And what they alleged is that they were deliberately inflating the amount of THC in their products. This was originally the story was broke by Weed Week, Alex Halperin. Shout out to Alex, love Alex. And they did some tests which showed that indeed there was about a 15% difference. On the pre-roll package, it said 46%. And on the actual products, when they tested it, it was about 26%. Adding to the confusion too, I should also note is that there's different margin of errors that are allowed with THC content in different states. So in California, the margin of error is 10%. You can only have 10% more or 10% less THC than what you claim on your package. In other states like Arizona, there's a 20% margin of error. So that leads people to be a little bit confused, right? Because they're like, well, I thought that was allowed. Well, it is, but only in some states. And the lawsuit that was, brought forward is saying that they had a financial incentive to overinflate the percentage of THC, which kind of makes sense. I mean, their tagline is, it'll get you to Mars faster than Elon Musk. So if it doesn't have a lot of THC, then they're not really living up to their brand promise. And I think that this will be definitely something that we'll see more of in 2023. What are your thoughts on this one, David?
I think so too. I think we'll see.
Hey, Aaron, sorry to interrupt. Aaron chimed in. It's actually 13% now in California. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you,
Good
Aaron.
To see you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And Caleb also chimed in. So even though it's the holiday, we know we have people listening in, which is awesome. But yeah, I believe a couple of things will happen. I think, companies will focus more on, those margins and be more specific. And on top of that, I think terpenes and other cannabinoids will start to become more important, and hopefully balance out what people are actually looking at. It's still at the end of the day, inflating anything or lying about anything in a product is not a good thing. But I think THC will sort of, maybe take a different type of role moving forward.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later with our predictions for 2023. Hi, Tara. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Should we jump on to the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. Number 9. The Safe Banking Act did not pass in 2022. And, some of the things we've seen where this leads to is, cash on hand, basically, cash on hand at a dispensary or adult use store has clearly created, certainly where I am in the Seattle area in Washington State, a number of, well, numerous robberies and a number of deaths, bud tender deaths. So, this is clearly dangerous and just doesn't make sense to create places where lots of cash is being stored and then moved obviously to banks or credit unions, however they do it. It's just not safe. So to make our industry safer and to make it safer for the employees and the people that work in the industry, we need to really do something about this, and hopefully 2023 will be different.
Totally. Yeah, let's get it together. We're taxing these businesses. Let them run their businesses in a safe way. I mean, it just makes sense.
That's right. That's right. We can't have people going to work every day not feeling safe.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Steve. Thanks for dropping a link for us. Brand building cannabis. Let's do it.
Right on. Let's go to the next slide.
Number 8. Let's see what it is. Okay, this is one of my favorite ones. So this is something that we've talked about previously on the show. This is something that we hear a lot of experts in cannabis talking about. How do consumers find the best strain for them, right? And there's a lot of competing ideas out there. People now tend to make purchases based on THC content. There's been numerous studies with consumers about how they select cannabis, and including ones that I participated in my former life as a market research person. And it overwhelmingly, people will cite quality as their what they look for when they're picking out a product in the store. But there has never really been a consensus of what quality actually means. So some researchers got together from Austin and also from Oregon. Sorry, I have their names right here. The Legacy Research Institute and the Credo Science. Okay, so they did a study with 267 participants. They gave them a bunch of samples. They had them smell the samples and rate the desirability based on the smell. And then they had them smoke it, and then rate how their experience was based on the overall experience and then also on the mood elevation. And what they found is that there was no correlation between the THC content and the overall experience, but there was a very strong correlation between the desirability of the smell and the experience. There was also not a strong consensus among the people who were smelling it about what was an appealing smell. The ones that everyone agreed were appealing, there was more of a correlation. There was some, interpersonal differences, but the ones that people said were bad were sort of all over the place. But for an individual, if it smells good to you, that's the one you should select. And looking at THC is not the best indicator. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first came into the industry 12, 13 years ago, I was speaking with the owner of then a dispensary, and one of the words that she brought up to me was organoleptic, and I've never forgotten that word. And so organoleptic means acting on or involving the use of the sense organs. And so from then, from that point on, I was very aware of, if I was going to make a purchase, it was always, about not only the look, the feel, but essentially the smell. And the smell is always the leading indicator for me of what the effect will be. And so I think this is huge. It's just unfortunate that, like aromatherapy, very much like aromatherapy. And if we can even trace back to terpenes where, there's higher levels of certain types of terpenes, linalool, for example, which is like lavender or is in lavender, is more relaxing, that type of thing. Other things with pinene and limonene, which are more invigorating. It's clear that those things take us where we want to go or do the same things that aromatherapy does. So it's unfortunate that we're not able to really smell our way into our purchases or through our purchases. It's unfortunate.
Some places allow it, some don't. I think mostly in California they don't. They used to have like little jars that had openings, but now
Right.
I'm seeing that less and less. But we'll have to look into what the actual law is and come back and talk about it. Organoleptic, I love that word. Steve, thank you for summarizing the Safe Banking Act. Definitely a lot to unpack, and we really appreciate you condensing this. Jay, hey, what's up, man?
Hey, Jay.
And also, hey, Wendy from Snowy Buffalo. Yes, I'm sorry about all that snow you guys are getting. I have some friends up there who are like basically stuck in the house.
And just to loop back to the Safe Banking Act super quickly, Steve, I love what you did because we only have about a minute and a half to talk about each one of our topics and then go into the predictions. So thank you for doing that. And I just want to call out, it's important that as we go through these and go through these really fast, that we're not taking anything away from the importance of each one of these items. So,
Hey, Max.
so thank you, Steve. Anyway, why don't we jump through going on to the next slide.
Let's do it. Number 7.
Number 7. Maryland and Missouri legalized adult use cannabis. Well, one of the things that I think is so great, and one of the things that I've seen being from New York, now in Washington, I've seen basically the West Coast, covered between Washington, Oregon, and California, and now I'm starting to see that happen on the East Coast. So yay for Maryland for filling in the dots for me as I color in my map, and Missouri for bridging the gap, the empty gap, the divide between the coasts. So things are happening. I think more things will happen in the future, but we're excited to see both of the states that start with M coming on board.
Turning that map green.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Should we go to the
Let's go. Okay, yes, here we go. Puffy, my friend Puffy, bought Cresco Labs in Columbia Care for $185 million. Puffy is now the proud owner of, 9 stores and 3 production facilities. He was widely interviewed after the purchase. Reporters were asking him, why did you decide to make this move? And he cited social equity reasons, which I think is great. He is now, so Cresco is now the largest Black-owned cannabis company, which we have to do a round of applause for that. Amazing. Yes. So this is a great news piece. Love it. Love to see that. And one of my highlights from 2022.
Absolutely. I agree. I think, maybe like Burner has done, where there's some rapping involved and sort of brand building around that. I think Puffy should make a comeback. I'm sort of thinking like throw your hands in the air, go smoke some Columbia Care, something like that. But, Puffy, you gotta
Let's get in touch. I think we should pitch him.
Yes, absolutely. New tracks for Cresco and Columbia Care. Absolutely. Next one. Biden signs cannabis research bill, and I know there's lots of probably eye rolling going on with this one, but at a time when the world is in such chaos and we have wars going on and we've got coming out of pandemics and we've got all these other things going on, the fact that the cannabis research bill could even make it to the president's desk says a lot. I thought nothing would happen this year, quite frankly, just because of all the other things that are going on in the world. So I'm at least excited to see the research bill. Research leads to, research and testing leads to regulation, leads to normalization, leads to all the things that we need to get to. So, so this was important for me to see take place at a time when, quite frankly, I thought it wouldn't be given any attention. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that we saw a couple major pieces of legislation. Did it go far enough? Probably not. Is it still a positive thing that should be celebrated? Yes. And the other example, of course, is the indication that people would be pardoned for nonviolent cannabis-related offenses, which, I mean, people were sort of critical of that because they said most of those prosecutions happened at the state level, not the federal level, so it wouldn't have a huge impact. But still, even a hollow gesture is still a gesture, right?
Indeed, yeah, it's a step in the right direction, and especially when it comes from a president, right? Regardless of who it is, there's intention, there's attention. Let's say.
Yeah.
So that's important. All right, enough of President Biden. Shall we move to the next slide?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I'm so sorry to bring down the mood with this one.
Yeah, maybe we should
The
do it.
reason, so sorry. The reason why I'm bringing this up, I'll go through this fast. So I really feel like this news story really sort of changed the narrative around how we talk about the dangers of cannabis consumption. There was a woman whose 4-year-old son in Virginia died from eating edibles. So disclaimer, was the mother negligent? Yes. Was poison control negligent? Also, yes. Did the kid have a pre-existing condition? Yes. Was the media attempting to demonize cannabis? Also, yes. But I think that this is important to talk about because before this, there was sort of this perception that, like, okay, do you remember the 911 call? The guy, he's like dialing 911. He's talking about how he can't breathe and time has stopped because he's really high and took too many edibles. And that was passed around like for comedy, right? It was something that people looked at and they were like, oh, this is hilarious because everybody knows that this guy was just freaking out and cannabis isn't really harmful. I think that that narrative is starting to change in the media, and undeservedly so, but something to definitely keep an eye on and something that shifted in 2022.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts, David?
I agree. I think, there were lots of things in this scenario, but, it's always the perfect storm, isn't it? But nonetheless, people will use it to their advantage, and to whatever they're seeking to, to have done. So those that are anti-cannabis will use it to their advantage.
Yeah.
But we also we need not to play this down. We need to understand, that this is terrible. First of all, and beyond that, we need to manage our products and we need to have quality control and we need to make sure that all the warning signs and all the labels and child resistant packaging is in place. But it's important. And I've heard a lot of people on I don't know how to explain this better, on the flower side of things or the natural side of things, sort of talk about this as it's a Delta 8 issue. But it's not. It's really a cannabinoid or cannabis issue, and we just need to be mindful. We can't we can't do anything further.
Well, let's move on to something more fun to talk about, shall we?
Yes. Yes.
And I want to say hi, Elena. Yes, she says, good afternoon, Canna folk. And if I misspelled your name, please correct me because I would love to get it right.
I think this is really interesting. I mean, come on, what's more American than baseball, apple pie, and now Charlotte's Web CBD? The MLB and Charlotte's Web have created an exclusive partnership, which I think is pretty amazing. When you think about the people, the history of baseball and the people that supported the fans, and how open they may or may not be to cannabis and cannabinoids, it's really interesting to see that. In fact, there's a great study which talks about leagues and their fans and how open their fans are to cannabis. So I think it's just interesting to see that. I think there's also the NBA and actually the NFL rate higher than the MLB in terms of fans and their interests. But here we've got a great partnership, and I think what's most important is that that it's with MLB, right? It's with baseball. So with baseball, it's everything American, and everything American comes back to the way I look at it, which is the normalization of cannabis.
Yeah.
I think we're just moving closer. We've got a long way to go, but we're moving closer, and I think this is a perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely perception of baseball being really wholesome. Not sure if that is accurate or not, but there is the perception. So yeah, normalization is part of this story for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh.
All right. Let's do number 2.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. I love Brock Ollie. This is such a fun ad. So the word Superbowl here is in parentheses, which because it never aired on the Super Bowl. Weedmaps tried to get it in. They were soundly rejected from the Super Bowl. But the video went viral. A lot of people saw it. And what I love about it is not only the commercial itself, which is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, it's Brock Ollie. It's like a day in the life of Brock Ollie, who is the broccoli emoji. and people use the broccoli emoji to be low-key about talking about weed when they're texting people, and he keeps getting mistaken for weed, and it's hilarious. And the other reason why I think this is important to share for the 2022 year in review is that I feel like this was the moment when the general audience in the United States started laughing along with the cannabis industry. Like, yes, it is ridiculous that this is censored. Yes, it's ridiculous that we can't advertise on television, especially when you consider the other products that are being advertised on the Super Bowl: beer, fast food, things that are definitely not healthy for us. And I think that this will be one of the moments when we look back and say, oh, consumer perceptions are really starting to change. We're really starting to catch up with what people inside the industry have already known for years and years.
Agreed. And, you know, you said something which is, you know, laughing with versus laughing at, you know, and you still, I hate to say it, you still even see it across mainstream TV, you know, on the late night shows. If somebody's making a reference to cannabis, it's always a stoner reference. You know, there's always that, you know, old school sort of punchline. We need to change that. So yeah, I think this was a great ad, and I think it was really a shift in laughing at versus laughing with. That's important.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Should we go to the last slide for the year in review? So number one was California protects its employees or employees, right? So what this is about is cannabis consumption while not on the job, while not working, but being tested for cannabis as well. And so this is super important. I have a number of friends that have over the years lost their jobs because they were surprise tested for cannabis, and you know, after working for companies for 10 years. So this is really important and near and dear to my heart to see that you know, the state is actually taking a look at this, taking a look at it seriously, and making rules and regulations around it to protect people during their private time in terms of what they consume, and you know, as long as it's not affecting their job, and as long as people aren't showing up, you know, stoned on the job and obviously messing up what they're doing, then you know, it's really none of the employees' business. So, yeah. So that said, I think this was a really great and important move. I hope more states. I know more states are moving in that direction, but it's important.
Thank you, California. And thank you, Meryl, for joining us. Happy holidays to you too.
Hi, Meryl. All right. Well, that was hour 10. And why don't we jump to the next slide? Because guess what? We know that we missed things.
Did we miss anything? Yes, we did. So tell us what it was.
Yes. So we're curious. Anyone listening, chiming in? Those were our, excuse me, our top 10. But we're curious to hear what's on, you know, what's top of your list. What do you think we missed? Because there's so much to cover. So, wow, thank you, Elena.
Jay wrote, hope Colorado follows California in that. Totally agree, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll get it, right? Best practices all around. We'll start to get it. Well,
thanks, Elena, for that vote of confidence. Appreciate you.
That's right. And while you folks on LinkedIn here are thinking about what your year-end summary or top one might be, we should get a move on, because we've got another 10 to go through for our predictions of 2023, don't we?
Yes, yeah. 10 more. Another countdown, back-to-back countdowns, countdown squared. All right, 2023 predictions. And this one is very much related to a couple of things that we shared earlier. Potency of inflation being one, and the research study, the nose being the other one. Consumers, this is my prediction, consumers will focus less on THC in 2023. The science doesn't support it. It's up to us as people who are in the industry to educate consumers that THC content is not an indicator of a quality product, and it's not an indicator that they're going to enjoy the product. So let's talk about terpenes. Let's talk about the pleasing aroma and how to select a product that will work for you, that is not just getting as much THC in your blood as possible, because that doesn't work.
Yep, absolutely. Terpenes, other cannabinoids, And THC, but it's not all about the focus on THC. So, yep, absolutely. And Steve, you're right. We all need to educate, and talk through what it's all about. It's not just about THC. Well, I think one of the things is we spoke a little bit earlier about the economy and the recession and falling prices and tightening margins. I think one of the predictions here, it's pretty obvious, is that the industry is going to be forced into lean and mean business processes. So as things tighten up, the companies in the industry will have to do that as well. I think it's just it's pretty obvious, but it's important to call it out. And typically, even though it's a tough thing, going through these phases, like we do even in our personal lives, right? It's important. You go through it, you sort of learn, you figure out where you can cut the fat, and you become better people, better businesses, and in total a better industry. That's what I think will happen next year, or in the years to come after 2023.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one too, David. I think we're sort of seeing a market correction in 2022. Retail sales really jumped up in 2020, and that was probably an anomaly because of where we were in our lockdown, in our crisis, and also with just where we were in terms of being accepting of consumption. So that's starting to level off again, and I think that it'll sort of be a more even retail sales going forward. I think that cultivators are still in the danger zone because there's more competition, not only from more people producing, but also from the illicit market. And with that, you have to think about what would be attractive to investors. If you're looking to expand your business or if you're looking to get acquired, they're going to want to know that even if you have thin margins, you're operating in a really streamlined way. So that could be like software, that could be more efficient lighting. A lot of people who know me know that I recently had a career change in 2022, going from market research to now doing cannabis tech, doing compliance software. And the reason for that is I'm just passionate about solving problems, and I see sort of discrepancies and lack of information as one of the biggest problems. So I think that we'll start to see people relying more on tools and anything that can help them cut down overhead in 2023.
Great. Yeah.
And I want to say thank you to Ron for your comment. THC will always be a dominant criteria. Understood that it has nothing to do with where you go, but it fuels the ride. That's true. It is an ingredient that is definitely impacts the experience greatly.
Absolutely. And I like what Elena said too, is, not necessarily change, but expand the narrative. Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump, here we are. The customer experience will become more important than ever. I believe this to be the case. I mean, as we start to see, let's just look at CPG right now. The brands, it's more than just the promise. It's more than just the package. It's more than just the purchase. Now it's really truly the experience, whether that's an online experience or an in-store experience. That's kind of where we've come to be. I think in the cannabis space, what's really interesting is in some of the states where you have vertical integration, you have not only the brands, but then you have those same brand owners owning the dispensaries. So when you think about it, that experience of a consumer even starts as they're driving by the dispensary for the first time, and they're like, hey, what's that? That could be, and if done right, and if done within certain rules and regulations, I mean, that's no different from the Golden Arches as you drive by it and you see that, and you see it, or an IHOP, if you remember the old IHOP architecture, from back in the day. You recognize the building, what's inside, it's speaking to you before you even get there. So I think with vertical integration in some states and the ability to offer up that experience even prior to getting into the store, I think it's pretty interesting, to sort of understand brands or understand what's taking place in the building before you even get there. And so that experience starts earlier, and I think it's something that will become more and more important.
Yep. And Christine agrees with you too. She says there has never been such a shift in how businesses focus on branding and customer experience. What is that quote we always say from George Gage? This is the new era of the brand in cannabis.
That's right. I thought you were going to go to meet customers where they are, but we don't. That's so 2022, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we need a new catchphrase about customer experience in 2023.
Yes, we do. Well, as we're looking for that or thinking about that, let's jump to the next slide, which is important. So our industry, one made up of marginalized people, will continue to marginalize each other. Ooh, that's pretty tough. And let me read that again. Our industry, one made up of marginalized people, will continue to marginalize each other. And I bring that up because this year I've noticed so many of us sort of pointing fingers at each other within the industry, whether it was at the different shows. I won't bring up specifics, but what I think we need to do is work with each other in 2023. You know, I know we come from all different places, but we're all going through that same struggle, which is for the love of the plant. And so in so many ways, we have so much more, you know, so much more similar than we do different. And so we really need to do that. So my promise to everybody in 2023 is that, you know, I'm going to stop bickering and sort of, you know, pointing fingers too. And I would ask that everybody does that, and that we come together in 2023 as whatever community we are, and as however we look at ourselves, to come together and ask for acceptance of each other. So I just think that's really important. Maybe that should have been our number one, or my number.
I was just thinking that. Totally true. And thank you, Geoff, for your comment. This is a huge problem in the cannabis industry. Legacy market, legal market, we're all in it together. Like, let's get it together.
Yep. All right. What do we got?
Ooh, okay, number 6. Okay, this might be a little controversial, or it might be a little aggressive. You tell me. A non-combustible product will overtake flower in at least one state. I'm not saying permanently. I'm not saying that the whole entire year edibles will outsell flower. I'm saying there'll be 1 month in one state that has legal sales where something other than flower will be the top seller. What do you all think? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? The reason why I think this is true is because not everybody wants to smoke. People want to participate in the health benefits, and they don't necessarily want to take up a smoking habit or a vaping habit. And I am sort of biased because I'm one of those people. I don't smoke cannabis, but I do consume edibles. I'm the like stereotypical middle-aged woman who's like not wanting to smoke weed and not really feeling like a part of that part of the industry. However, I do want to experience the benefits, and I do want to experience cannabis. So that's my entry point. And I think a lot of other people are the same way, and that they will start to catch up with flower. You all agree with me? Curious to hear it.
I do. I loved how you caveated everything, which is like, you know, for 1 month in one state there will be, which is awesome.
I'm hedging my bets over here.
You are indeed, but I think it makes sense in that movement. You know, again, normalization, people smoking less and consuming different form factors for different reasons. So sure, I agree with this. I buy into this.
Caleb buys into it too. He just ate a gummy. And Christine also agrees that she can see that to be true. Thanks for backing me up.
Yeah, there's evidence right there. We have evidence right there, don't we? All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh boy, predictions. Mike Tyson will return for his 3rd and final round. I say this, he's been here once and failed. He's now been here twice. He's coming back with his holy eats this season for his ears, but I predict he's going to come around one more time in 2023. He's going to come out with a line of edibles called Ringside Eats instead of Ringside Seats. He's also going to come out with a fruit punch cannabis infused drink called Sucker Punch. And then on top of that, in his final and last exit from the industry, I predict he's going to create a crochet store, a chain of crochet stores, in fact, called Bob and Weave. Bob and weave. Ding, ding, ding. Woo! Saved by the bell.
Nice one. Okay, so I have to call out this package. Tell me about it. What are we looking at here?
Well, we're looking at the Mike Bites, which are ear-shaped gummies. Initially, they had nothing to do with Holy, although people complained or people commented initially and said, was Evander Holyfield, who was the one that got his ear bitten, was he getting a piece of the royalties? Initially, he was not, but now he's part of the gang and he's involved in it. So we're looking at the Christmas ear-wrapped Holy Ears, also referring to Holyfield, as probably one of the worst tongue-in-cheek, really bad product offerings I've ever seen. Yet here we are talking about it. But I predict.
Any info on how this product is selling, please let me know, because I can't think of anything more disgusting than chewing on somebody's ear.
Indeed. That's why I predict he's going to dance off into the future with his crochet store called Bob and Weave. Thanks, Mike Tyson. See you later. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay, yes, number 4, prediction, also maybe a little aggressive. Safe banking will pass in 2023. And here's why I think it's going to happen. Yes, the Republicans have gained control of the House, so that might make it a little bit more difficult. But I do want to point out that when it passed in 2021, 100% of Democrats voted for it, of course, and 51% of Republicans voted for it. So I think that there's still a chance, even in our current political climate. I think it'll pass. I think that we'll be able to have freedom from, being the banking industry will have freedom from practices which basically come down on them for working with cannabis businesses. And I will be excited to see that go away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we'll be talking about the Safe Banking Act for quite some time. So remember, always be safe. That said, number 3 is 2023 will be the year of partnerships. And I think, Angela Pye said it last year. If you remember, she said it's going to be more about co-opetition rather than competition. But I think strategic partnerships are really going to play out this year. Again, I think that feeds back into where are the efficiencies, where are the economies of scale, where can, one company and another company be the 1 + 1 = 3. I think that's really important. I think examples of this that we're starting to see are GTI, Green Thumb Industries, and Circle K. That's one example. Leafly and Uber in Canada in terms of delivery and sort of adding scale and reach. So I think strategic partnerships probably more than ever with the industry, with what's going on in the industry and the economy, I think strategic partnerships are going to play a bigger and broader role in 2023.
Yeah, agree. And also there's a brand benefit to working with a strategic partnership versus if you know that you can partner with someone, if you need to expand into another state and you know that you can partner with someone that already has brand recognition, why fight an uphill battle to try to get your brand recognized when you can do something with someone that already has a little equity in that state? So yeah, a lot of reasons why this is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What's number 2?
Number 2. Okay, this one is near and dear to my heart. My mother is a college professor at a college in upstate New York, Potsdam University. She has a friend who teaches a cannabis business class that I've spoken to the students at, and it is overwhelming how excited they are to learn about the cannabis industry. I think that enrollment is down at colleges and universities across the US, with the exception of Ivy League schools that are just so competitive that they'll always sort of attract a lot of people coming in. But enrollment is down, and colleges are asking themselves, like, how can we be attractive to students? I think young people are really starting to question the value of a college education. There's even, politicians out here saying college is a scam, right? So there are the age of like feeling like, oh, you have to go to school in order to be successful, I think is on the decline. And I think colleges that are smart will start to think about ways to counteract that trend and that perception. And one of those ways is by offering courses in cannabis, cultivation programs, business programs, design programs. Embracing a new industry, particularly one that has that like cool factor that young people will be drawn to, is a smart move. And I think we'll see it happening more and more in 2023.
I agree. You know, it's funny. I took a 4-day course in Oakland at Oaksterdam University 12 years ago. And that was my introduction, you know, or one of my introductions into the industry. And now I'm actually teaching a business of marketing course at LIM College in New York, which is the first accredited college. I don't want to say real college, but a college, you know, that accredited college that has a course as well, curriculum. And just to call out, Rowan University also has a course as well. Thank you. And yep, and Brett Puffenbarger is a lecturer there and a teacher there and a great friend. And he's doing great things as well at Rowan University. So there are many schools coming on board, real schools coming on board. I shouldn't say real, sorry, accredited schools that are coming on board, which, you know, again, will normalize, you know, cannabis and cannabis education. It's been amazing to see the open house at LIM College and to see college kids come with their parents, you know, their nervous parents, to sort of say like, okay, what's going on here? You know, like what's really taking place? You know, is this really going to be an educational course? Will they come out with a diploma? Will they come out with an opportunity for a career? Those are the things that are really important. Especially.
And you throw out another example, CSU in Fort Collins.
Yeah.
I think that list is just going to keep growing.
Yes.
Online colleges too will offer a lot of these courses. And I think we learned in 2020 that all colleges are online colleges now. There's really no, you know, separation.
Yeah, absolutely. There's online real world colleges. I mean, Oaksterdam University has a great program too. So it's very cool what's going on now, and I think it's only going to increase. And you know, I know California. You know, the state of California has. If not curriculum, they certainly have cannabis clubs at most of the colleges and universities as well. So it's getting there. We're getting there, and 2023 will push forward as well. We'll get further. Let's go to our last slide.
Number one, number one prediction for 2023.
Yep, brand differentiation will become more important than ever, and I'll just say it this way, you know. There's really two things that drive industry and drive investment, and that's technology and innovation and or brands, right? And so, you know, if you have a powerhouse brand that can lead technology and innovation, let's say like an Apple, it's going to be an absolute leader, an absolute winner. In our space, you know, those brands that can differentiate themselves, whether through packaging and branding. Well, let me start off, whether through quality product first, because that's most important, and or packaging, product or experience. Those are the brands that are going to stand out. And we see that already. You know, we see those brands, the quality products that can come through and how they can connect with communities, specific targeted customers. That's what it's all about. And so I think as we move forward, brands are either going to have to be innovative, on one level or another. Maybe it's technology, maybe it's not, maybe it's more human and organic, but they'll have to be innovative, and their brand will have to, you know, speak through. And I think that's going to be the most important thing, because as we go through the economy, as we go through the tightening and the shrinking, as we go through all the things that we're about to go through, we've been going through, but we're about to go through in 2023, these things will affect us. So it's going to be more important than ever to differentiate one's brand, and we'll see who leads with it. Yes, and with eco-friendly production.
It's definitely challenging, right? If you're building a brand in cannabis, we know already you have so many unique challenges specific to being in the cannabis industry. There are restrictions on how and where you can advertise. There are restrictions on packaging, and also generally fighting against stigmas. So people who are working to build a brand have an uphill battle, and it's more important than ever. So not being unsuccessful at creating a brand around your product is not an option.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So bring on the creativity, bring on the innovation, bring it all on, because we want to see it and you're going to need it. So so that said, we are 45 minutes in already, and now it's time to, well, actually, before we close out the show, we know we missed stuff. So if any of the audience members want to chime in really quickly, we're happy to hear, and we're always, we love to hear what you have to say. And I agree, Ron.
Contradict us.
Yes, contradict us. Ron, quality, consistency, value, partnership, community, they're all important. I always say a brand is a promise, and the ability to consistently deliver on that promise, whatever it is, whether it's real or perceived. And that's what a brand is. And we're seeing some good things here. Thank you for sending this in. Yep, building relationships rather than transactional. There's all sorts of things. Absolutely. Read. I like it. Great. There was a G before the read in the in the chat. Well, that said, we are now 46 minutes deep, and we're excited to talk about what we've got going on for our next show, which is our first show of the year. We'll be back again next January.
2023. Woo!
Yep, absolutely. January 5th, the first Thursday, and every Thursday at 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. EST. And next show, we have Maha Hawk, and we're going to be speaking about the future of cannabis consumption lounges. And we're pretty excited to talk about that and talk about what's going on in different states, and talk about what will happen in 2023 and what are some of the things upcoming for us.
We will be dropping a link in the chat for next week's episode. So feel free to hop on over there and check out the topics we're discussing. Cannabis lounges, very exciting thing that is starting to emerge in 2023. And as I'm saying it, I'm realizing that should have been on one of our top 10 for the predictions. Anyway, join us next week. Thank you so much. This has been really fun, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday. Thank you to everybody. It was a great year, and we're looking forward to a new one. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy New Year.